Hello there everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Royce. I am a painter, sculptor, and a collector. And today we are going to be diving into my bookshelves. I have selected my top 5 or so favorite books and I cannot wait to show you. So without further ado, let's get started. And as always, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Royce. If you're new, I'm a painter, sculptor, and a collector. And this channel is kind of like an odds and ends. I paint, I draw, I show you a lot of my props, and now I'm going to show you some of my favorite books. And we're going to start out with a Disney book. This is the Imagineering book by, I think it's Disney Pictures or Disney Publishing. If you want to be an Imagineer, or if you're ever interested in Imagineering, this is a fantastic book. It is such a great read. It is filled to the brim with just such wonderful photographs, full in color, renderings, behind the scenes stories, and a lot of this weird like mesh stuff. It's a great book and I absolutely highly recommend it. Like I said, if you want to be an Imagineer or you're interested in behind the scenes of theme parks and kind of what it takes to design for theme parks. Up next, we have a very fun book. It is by the Jim Henson Company, and I absolutely loved the Dark Crystal. If you have not seen my Dark Crystal puppet display video, I will link it below. I loved the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance on Netflix. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. I believe it's still on there, but the movie isn't. But if you haven't watched the movie, check out the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. It's so good, and then watch the movie. Kind of like goes in an order. It's a prequel series. But anyway, Jim Henson Company released this book, The Dark Crystal, The Return to Thra. This book is so good. I love the behind the scenes aspect, especially when you hand make anything like puppetry. It's just so much more fascinating to see the behind the scenes photographs than say CGI where it's just always on a screen. It just has amazing concept art by Brian, what was his name? Brian Froud, yes. And he's just an amazing concept designer. Beautiful photographs from the show. If you loved The Dark Crystal, I highly recommend this book. Next up, we have a very heavy book, and I remember buying this at the parks. This is a book by Disney Publishing again, and it's pretty much highlights Marc Davis's life, and you really get an in-depth look at his creation process, and it is in a beautiful, nice, thick cardboard shell box thing. And it's 2 books, and part number 1 kind of focuses more on the beginning of Marc Davis's career when he worked at the animation studios. And if you don't know, he designed some of your favorite Disney characters like Cruella and Maleficent and Tinkerbell. And then it focuses on the early part of his career at WED Enterprises, now Imagineering, and his designs for Tiki Pirates Mansion, stuff like that. And then the last part in the book, it kind of focuses on the latter part of his career. If you are a Disney fanatic, I highly recommend these books. They are just so amazing, filled with beautiful concept art. And this book retailed for $150 at the parks. I bought this at an off the page at Disney's California Adventure, probably about 4 years ago now. But if it's still available, I will look for it and I will link it below. Next up, we're gonna go back to Jim Henson a little bit. This book is very sentimental to me. I have had it since I was probably 10 or 11. Let me actually look to see if I can find a publishing date, because I probably bought it when it was brand new. Okay, so this was published in 2000, so I had it since I was 9 years old, and it is The Bear in the Big Blue House. If you've never watched that show, I don't believe that it's on Disney Plus, but I'm sure you can find episodes on YouTube, and it is such a fun show. It really was my introduction to not only puppetry, but the Jim Henson Company, and it's so colorful, and this book was read to me so many times by my mom, and it's just so sentimental. I love it. The next book was given to me by my grandma, and it's so fun because you could see in here, it was given to me on March of 1995. Can you believe that? That's how old this book is, and in the back it's all faded. This is by the Little Golden's book, and it says it's Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore Be Happy. And I can pretty much guarantee they don't sell this anymore, but you can probably find it on maybe eBay or some other auction site. It's just a really, really fun book. It's really not like that, oh, you have to have this book. It's just more of a sentimental book, but I mean, the illustrations are beautiful, and it's just one of those childhood memories, and I know we all have that. The next book is very personal. It is my journal or diary. I don't know, do men call it journals and women diaries? I don't know, but I journal in it once a month, and I started journaling when the pandemic happened, when, you know, we were all kind of inside and stuck. I really thought to myself, this is the time to document this process and this journey, kind of like an Anne Frank situation. And I commissioned this on Etsy. This amazing artist in Germany made this from scratch to the design that I wanted. And I'm sure you're gonna see the cover and say, hey, that looks very familiar, and you would be right. This was inspired by the Enchanted storybook. If you've watched Enchanted, the very first scene when you get into the story, you see the book and it opens, and then you dive into the animated world. But I loved the design of that. I thought it was just so classically like beautiful and just elegant, and I changed the name from Enchanted to my last name, Alcozer, but everything else is pretty much the same. And it is a very heavy book. It's very big, and on the sides it has like these beautiful like elvish locks on it, and then on the spine it has, I don't know if you can see, it has a fawn playing a flute, kind of my salute to Narnia, because I love the Chronicles of Narnia. And in it, it's just filled with my journal entries, but it has a very, very special photograph of someone that I want to introduce you to, and that is my dog Tiny. So Tiny Bones was my first dog. I got him when I was 8 years old in the summer of 2nd grade, I remember. And he was just my best friend. I was an only child growing up, so it was kind of lonely, especially when like you were just stuck inside and you were like, okay, what do you do? And if you're an only child, you will relate to this. And he was truly my best friend. He would hang out with me. I would play with him. He was very, very loyal and dedicated to me, and I will always cherish and love Tiny forever. And I am very, very fortunate to not only have a son of Tiny's, but also now a grandson of Tiny's. So I have generation 3. His son is named Pongo, and then his grandson is named Milo. And I just adore them so much, and I see Tiny in both of them in different ways. And I'm kind of doing what Queen Elizabeth did, where she just bred down her original dog through the generations. So I'm on generation 3 right now, so let's see how far I can get. But I love Tiny so much. He's very, very always in my heart, and you'll never forget your first dog. Next up is very intimate, very special book, very special project for me, and that is my first book, The Enchanted Canvas. If you haven't seen my publishing journey and how I kind of brought this book to life, I will link the video below. Basically, this is the heart and soul of the pandemic. I was stuck inside just like all of you, and I needed to get out somehow, and drawing was truly my outlet, but also I wanted to create a story. So I wrote this during the pandemic and edited it and worked on the character designs, and I actually had a lot of help from editors and cover designers to bring it all to life. And if you haven't, you can please go and buy a copy. It's at barnesandnoble.com. Just Google my name, Royce Alcozer. I will link it, of course, for you below. And this is my first book, and obviously it's gonna be my favorite book. If you've never published a book before, you truly understand and respect the book process a lot more, because it is very time consuming, and you really have to have your heart and soul, because there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of back and forth, and it could get very tiring. And especially for somebody like me who's very impatient, it could be very overwhelming. but I got through it. Here's a physical manifestation of kind of my COVID experience, and I turned it into something positive. And I hope that all of you kind of do the same. If you're ever going through something hard, try to find a positive outlet, whether that's drawing, whether that's sculpture, whether that's pottery, ceramics. I mean, there's so many things you can do. Painting is amazing. Poetry, I've heard, is really fun to do. So find your niche, find your outlet, and experiment with it, because you never know where the path may lead and what that may lead to career-wise. Well, everyone, that is going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed my book collection tour. If you did, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon. That way you're notified whenever I upload a new video. I'm trying to be very, very consistent and committed to this channel. As always, thank you so much for stopping by. Be nice to one another, and always remember not only to follow your dreams, but to chase them.